turn on display as, let's say, ticks, you can see we've actually got these tick particles or boxes, let's say asterisks, whatever. Let's go for circles. That makes a pretty obvious display. So the first thing that happens with our first event, you can see I've called it footfall detector, is we birth all of our particles at frame 0. If you needed a run-up, let's say you wanted a character to have already been walking when you did this effect, then you'd actually have to start this emission at, say, -50 or whatever, how long, you know, depending how much of a run-up you want. And you can see I'm birthing 446 particles. And the reason for that was, I think we're actually displaying, yeah, we're displaying 100% here. If you look at each one of these feet, you'll see that they've got 446 vertices. And because of that, what I've actually done is I've actually birthed these 446 particles and I've placed them onto the feet using position object, which you can see here. And I've got foot left and foot right added to that. You know, if we wanted more particles per area, you could pop it up to 800 or whatever. Sorry, 800 instead of 80. Let's try that. There we go. And you can see, you know, they get distributed here, and you could use the options in position object to make sure you don't get any sort of duplicate particles being placed. To give, you know, as you can see here, a lot of them are actually being placed on the outline to, you know, make sure that you don't end up with an uneven distribution of these seed particles on the bottom of the feet. So for now, we'll just put it down to 446 because that gives us an even enough spread of these sort of seed particles. So when we've got these placed on the feet, the next thing we've got is we delete them on frame 80, and that's actually the frame on which, if you actually watch the feet walk across here, you can see that on frame 80 we actually kill off our particles. And that's because the feet have come to rest, so therefore we don't need these seed particles anymore. That's just to stop any sort of possible future dust generation after this point. So that's just a neatness thing that we've done there. We're displaying the particles as circles, and you see I've given them this sort of cyan color just to make them really obvious. And so that's just about it, really. Now, the first thing that happens here is that we've got this initial collision, and you can see it's using deflector initializer. So if we go back over here and I turn on this collision, I'll actually turn off this collision here. This is just to show each step of the actual particle system in effect. You can see that we're looking for initial collision, and that happens when the particles collide with a collision object. You can see they're doing it here, and they're being passed on to the next event where they become these red ticks. So just to make it a bit easier to see the red ticks, I'll just change these to dots. So you can see some of the particles are colliding almost immediately. That's actually generating dust, as it were. And you can see we're using position object, and we're placing that generated dust on the feet. So if we watch this and we press play, you can see the dust moves along with the foot, and it goes down. And you're actually starting to see the effect here. You can see what happens. Some of the dust is actually moving along with the feet. So now we've got basically these seed particles here, and then we've got these dust particles, and you can see that these dust particles are being moved along with the feet, and what they're waiting for is they're waiting for an event where they actually collide with an object, and then they're allowed to do their dust effect. So you can see if we turn off this collision, which we've actually done here, they're not allowed to do that, so they'll just basically accumulate on the feet. So as we play the simulation, more and more particles are accumulating on the feet, which you can see with this number here. Now, because these are dust particles, we don't want them to live forever, so you can see I've actually put in a deletion operator here, and that's just to make sure that the particles don't build up too much. And you can see that it's just killing them off after 20 frames. And as I said, that's just to stop the particles accumulating. If we go back to the beginning and turn that off and I press play, if you watch the particle count in this event, you'll see that it just builds up, and you get this increasing number of particles in here. So that's all this operator is here for. It's just to make sure that our particle count doesn't get too high. So we'll just go back to the beginning. If I turn on collision, what happens now is that when the particles collide with this deflector called deflector releaser, which is actually pretty much in the same place, you'll see that what happens is the particles get sent on to the next event, and you can see here this is where we've got the basically we'll actually rename this